Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Games from Almost in Full Color. Today's video, I want to talk about Suicide Squad, a game that never got a chance to showcase what it actually is without having to be subjected to the bias of what was expected by longtime fans of the Batman Arkham series and by Rocksteady Games. Everyone wanted it to be a single-player experience in the same vein as Batman, but instead Rocksteady, and perhaps more so WB Games, decided to take the Suicide Squad into the live-action looter shooter genre. Now, I've heard many critiques of the game, honestly, most being extremely biased and almost literally just hit pieces fueled by rage and disappointment that fans didn't get what they wanted from the game. I understand being disappointed in a game not being what you personally wanted, but from a review standpoint, that is not actually a review of the game itself. If you don't like looter shooters, how can you review one? You can't. You will never enjoy playing it because you don't like that style of game. A game has to be reviewed for what it is, not what you wanted it to be, and by someone who enjoys that style of game and understands the mechanics of what it needs to be a good game in that genre. So that's what I intend to do here. Also, there will be spoilers for the story, so be warned now. I've actually invested a lot of hours into Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League to ensure that I actually understood the game before jumping to review it. This isn't my first tango with a looter shooter live action style game. I've played Destiny since it was first released on PS3 until the present day, which is about 10 years or so. Currently, I'm waiting on the final shape like all of my other Guardians and just middling along with the seasonal content during the wait. I don't intend to judge this game as a direct competitor to Destiny, as that would also be unfair. Destiny has a 10-year head start, so to expect Suicide Squad or really any other looter shooter to be on par with what is offered in Destiny would be unreasonable. But I do intend to at least see if the looter shooter mechanics are there and if Suicide Squad actually checks the boxes needed to be a good looter shooter. Suicide Squad is a good blend of single-player storytelling with the run and gun that you would expect from a fast-paced looter shooter title. In fact, the single-player style experience you go through while killing the Justice League before opening up the endgame is actually pretty well done. Suicide Squad really is a polished experience from the cutscenes to the dialogue and overall acting of the characters during those cutscenes. The facial expressions feel authentic, and at times it almost feels like you're watching a well-acted movie scene. Plenty of times I found myself actually laughing out loud at the interactions between the members of the Suicide Squad and them being just their normal crazy selves. Honestly, there are very few games where the dialogue between characters and cutscenes ever really is enjoyable for me. A lot of times I'm just waiting for the scene to end so I can resume playing the game. In Suicide Squad, I never found myself pondering if I should just skip ahead because the story and the dialogue is that well done. Kudos to the voice actors involved because they really gave some great performances. As you start to encounter the Justice League heroes that have been brainwashed by Brainiac, you start to wonder how in the heck you're actually going to pull off killing the Justice League. Probably the best interaction you get early on is when you first encounter Batman. Jesus Christ, Rocksteady introduces him so well. First, they allow the player to slowly grasp that Batman is definitely not the Batman you're used to. This Batman has an extreme murderous intent and leaves no survivors. No jails needed here, just graves. Then, just as you think things can't get worse, they let you get introduced to Batman the exact way a villain would. Batman appears from the shadows, only to kill all the lights in classic Batman style and leave you looking in every corner and rafter wondering where he's going to strike from. It really gives a great feeling of anxiety and just helplessness when you go through that part and allows a player to get a personalized experience to how it feels to be a bad guy in that situation. Now, before you actually get to take on your first Justice League member, you have to run through some story missions and also side missions in order to help equip your character with better weapons and equipment. Now, if you're familiar with Destiny, then those side missions will feel a lot like public events. I wouldn't call them strikes since you don't actually play a level or progress through an area to fight a big bad at the end. You basically just stay in that area and complete whatever the objectives is for that side mission. Usually it's destroy a reactor by first destroying the crystals that are giving it a barrier. Then after the crystals are taken out, you can destroy the reactor. Later on, you start getting side quest missions where you have to take out enemies in the area, but they can only be damaged by doing certain attacks, whether it's counterattacks, grenades, or affliction damage. I wouldn't say there's a huge variety to these missions, but honestly, variety is not something you get much of in a looter shooter. Usually it's either kill this, find this, or protect this. Rinse and repeat as you grind your way to new weapons and equipment. So I don't hold it against Suicide Squad for not having a huge variation of mission types, because that's not something you get in these games, especially not when it just launched. If variation comes, it usually comes as additional content is added over time. Now, what do I expect from Luda Shooter that it has to deliver on? Character builds. The build system has to be in depth, so the player feels like they have the ability to really come up with some unique builds to use in the more difficult content, or as we call it, the end game. These help encourage the player to continue to grind through the same content in order to get new weapons and equipment. In that area, Suicide Squad definitely delivers. It is crazy how deep the build system is, considering this is Rocksteady's first time jumping into this kind of game. There are so many ways to build out your character, it's crazy. They have a good assortment of weapons and equipment that all have their own specific perks, and it gives you the ability to really get into the weeds of how you want to spec out your character for that specific content you're about to run. A big part that helps you get into the weeds with character builds is that you can combine different weapons and equipment that are part of their own unique infamy or notorious villain set to create an entirely new set. These new sets are called villain synergies. Now, the game doesn't tell you what villain and infamy combinations you need to make to attain these villain synergies, so it adds to the fun of combining them together to see if any synergies happen. If you do combine the right ones to get a villain synergy, then a big pop-up will appear and tell you what synergy you just created and all of the perks included in it. Weapons and equipment you get have the ability to be re-rolled completely for new perks. They can be crafted, can have just certain perks on the weapon re-rolled, and also be enhanced to increase the specs on it. Funny enough, one of the things that really made me happy was the ability to see all of the possible perks you could get when re-rolling an item. It took years before this was even a possibility in Destiny 2. You always had to go to some website to see what perks were possible on a gun, to see what the God roll was. With Suicide Squad, you just hit R2 and it shows everything possible to get in that slot if you re-roll it. So say it has 8 perks listed in the possible perk pool. Once you re-roll it, then it will randomly select 3 of them for you to choose from, which helps a lot if you're looking to get one specific perk. But if you roll it and all the perks offered are not what you want, you can just keep the perk you currently have. But of course, you still lose the resources you spent to roll it. That really helps cut down on the RNG you have to deal with when re-rolling items. Also, once you get a gun or item, you don't have to level it up to unlock perks. Everything's available once you get the drop. So once you get the item to drop, you can immediately start going after your perfect roll of that item to support your build. No need to play for hours with that specific gun just to unlock perks for it, which is a huge plus. You can tell that although it's Rocksteady's first time making a looter shooter, they took the time to understand what things are needed to make a good one. You can even save your builds to a loadout and switch to them when you want, without having to manually build it out all over again. Coming from someone who had to wait years in Destiny 2 for the ability to craft weapons and create hot swappable loadouts for your character, having these things day one is great. Cosmetics are also in the game. Some are unlocked from doing the Riddler challenges placed throughout the map, and others are acquired through paying actual money through the store in the game. Now, I will say that they do give a fair amount of cosmetics you can earn just by doing the Riddler stuff, so you don't feel forced to buy anything, at least not now anyway. Also, so far there is nothing that is not purely cosmetic that is offered for sale, so no guns can be bought with real money or anything like that, which is good. Suicide Squad really deserves a better chance than it got, and sadly I don't see it lasting longer than maybe a few seasons of new content drop. The player base is not the strongest, and it has already been review bombed to hell from people upset that Rocksteady made a live service game out of it and didn't give out free review codes prior to launch. That is what actually drove me to play it. Just being able to judge the game on what it is and not what people wanted it to be. I'm happy I did because I enjoyed playing it since I first picked it up. Hopefully the game lasts because I'm interested to see what Rocksteady does in the next few content drops, but I'm not holding my breath that we actually get them. I suggest waiting for it to go on sale and then trying the game out if you're interested in giving it a shot. It really has been a good experience for me, and I think if people gave it a fair chance that they would enjoy it too. Of course, if they like looter shooters, that is. Well, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And as always, thanks for supporting the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.